Budget Day in India, a boost in spending on the rural poor, a new drive to lift people out of poverty, some of the headlines. Cuts in income tax were also announced to encourage more people to actually pay tax in the wake of that decision to ban high currency notes. India, of course, the bright spot in the global economy, but keeping that going, adapting to a new world order with Donald Trump throws up a variety of challenges. More on those in just a moment. First, this was how the budget was actually announced in Parliament.
I rise to present a budget for 2017-18. Spring is a season of optimism. I extend and other vulnerable sections of us. My overall approach while preparing this budget has been to spend more in rural areas, infrastructure and poverty alleviation. Demonetisation has a strong potential to generate long-term benefits in terms of reduced corruption, greater digitization of our economy, increased flow of financial savings, and greater formalization of the economy, all of which would be eventually lead to higher GDP growth and tax revenues. Demonetisation helps to transfer resources from the tax evaders to the government, which can use these resources for the welfare of the poor and the deprived.
Well, that was the session in Parliament. As you can see, Bundeep Singh Rangar, the chief executive of advisory firm Indus View, is joining us in the studio. And from Delhi, it's the economist Ranan Banerjee, leader of public finance at PricewaterhouseCoopers in India. Thank you both for being with us. Ranan Banerjee, to you, first of all, big promises in terms of helping the rural poor, big sums of money. Is that achievable, do you think?
Yeah, it's very much achievable because the things that have been promised are related to the rural roads and the benefits that have been said to be given to the poor women who, like the pregnant women and who bear children. So there will be a 6,000 rupees transfer to their bank accounts. There is a lot of rural infrastructure build. There is a higher allocation under the Rural Employment Guarantee Act, so there are a lot of jobs that are on offer on that, so these are achievable.
So the aim is to lift people out of poverty, or more people out of poverty. Bundeep, but they're going to spend $7 billion on a new scheme to guarantee every rural household 100 working days. What's your view on that? Is that a lurch back to just the state involvement of the past?
I think that this budget in general and the scheme that you just mentioned part and parcel of a budget which is designed not necessarily for growth as much as it is for votes. This is a budget to garner votes, and the rural base is one which is a heavily voting base. And you look at all the different schemes they're proposing for reducing taxes for the lower income households and for small enterprises. Well, 95% of India's enterprises are small, and a good chunk of the taxpayer base, about 80% of it, is that small income earner. So this is very much designed with these 4 or 5 key elections coming up in states in India.
And just briefly, in terms of the bigger picture, we were talking to our correspondent a little earlier. They were disappointed. They wanted more to encourage more domestic foreign investment. Do you share that analysis?
Absolutely, because one thing missing in this budget is that it's not Trump-proofed. If you look at what's happening in the United States with clamping down on imports, outsourcing, and H-1B visas, well, Indian companies export a lot to the U.S., particularly in IT. That might come under fire. Where is the sweetener for the Indian companies here that are exporting to the U.S.? And remittances play a key part of India's capital account deficit because remittances add to state coffers. Well, that could go down if there's fewer people working overseas. Nothing at all in that in the budget.
I'll come back to the Trump part of the equation in a moment. Ranan Banerjee, income tax for some groups have been halved, and the hope is that more people will actually pay tax. Only 1% paid tax in 2013. Do you think there's any chance of actually more people putting into the public coffers?
So the income tax cut that has been given is for the income range of 250,000 to 500,000 income bracket. Otherwise, there is no change in the income tax slabs. So I don't think that that is intended more to bring more taxpayers into the income tax net, but it is more to give relief to people who had faced some difficulties owing to the demonetization.
Let me ask you, because you were talking about Donald Trump. I mean, he seems already to be very hostile towards China. Does that leave India potentially with a big opportunity?
Absolutely, because there's no anti-India stance there. It's more of a make in USA, like Narendra Modi has Make in India stance, but it's not a hostile attitude. So there's a lot of opportunity here. I think that also Indian corporates, it could benefit more, because ultimately, if Modi really makes the tax base on par with what the tax rate on par with what Donald Trump is promoting, i.e. 15 to 20%, not India's 35%, will that be beneficial for large Indian corporates? That was missing in this budget too.
Ranan Banerjee, just a final word to you. How significant is this budget if you're a business, if you're an ordinary person? Because India is one of the real bright spots of the global economy. They're trying to keep growth at around 7%. Do you think this is going to push them on or be somehow rather static?
No, it's going to give a push, because the key sector in India which gives the maximum employment is the small and medium enterprises, and for businesses with turnover with less than 50 million rupees has been the corporate income tax on them have been brought down from 30% to 25%. So that is a sector which the government is targeting at, because that generates the employment, and the growth in jobs is a focus of this government. So I think that's the area of focus.
Well, Ranan Banerjee, thank you so much for your analysis, and Bundeep Singh Rangar here in the studio. Thanks to you for your time. Thanks to both of you.